So talking about media morphing or meaning morphing, meaning, purpose. So when I suggest that meaning can morph, I'm touching on the idea that each person perceives reality through a series of filters. They experience colors differently and experience colors perception. I was actually talking to a friend not too long ago, talking about how color doesn't really exist. We all have our own way of viewing it, and colors are not strictly defined. They're based on these different levels to our perception of like which way are the cones and rods in our eyes are working. I'd have to defer to a subject matter expert on that. So if you know anything about what I'm talking about, color not existing, do colors exist? Put a comment below. Thank you very much. So experience does color perception. The more information we have, the wider our filters become. They become wider and wider. Our window on what's happening opens ever further. And then I say below, I find it refreshing when I see a person discovering something good in a thing that they never appreciated before. A friend said to me the other day, paraphrased of course, I'm enjoying Latin music more of late. I'm enjoying Latin music and I haven't a clue what they're singing about. But I love the way that it makes me feel. That's great art. When you don't even know what they're saying, but the quality of the music, the tone, it transcends language. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So meaning can morph. It's because our reality is subjective in many ways. Not at the core. You know, there are hard truths to the fact that you need your heart to beat, you need your brain to work. There's a number of things out there that objectively are moral or immoral. I'm not trying to say that all reality is subjective. Just our lens, just our window is subjective. It comes through our inner world. We have our inner world that only we know, and we have the outer world we perceive outside our head. And of course, that outer reality, we try to sense patterns because it makes it easier to navigate. But of course, there are such things as false positives, and there are such things as linguistic games that people play, and then not everybody knows they're involved in the linguistic game. But so you'll see somebody that might be doing something to do with like politics, for example. They'll be calling people names. They'll be putting labels on people. They'll be grouping them up back to the intersectional stuff. They'll be trying to find some way to separate people up, divide them, and then conquer their ideology, point out their thought crime, and conquer their ideology. So we do have our own inner reality that we project. We project it on the outer world, and we see what bounces back, and what bounces back we see as safe. And there's this entire system of our pattern recognition that doesn't get enough coverage sometimes. You know, we have so many people out there that are pro-science, but you don't really hear about this all that often. You hear about a whole lot of people losing their agency and getting dog whistles and having stochastic terrorism, you know, and pogroms and all these different things. But you don't really hear too often about the fact that everybody just looks at things differently. Scott Adams calls it 2 movies on one screen, which is a pretty good analogy for it. Our experience colors our perception. So the more time we've spent with something, the more time something's gone through our brain pathways, the more times it's been repeated, our confirmation bias and our cognitive dissonance muscles grow. We start to get really familiar and really settle into that reality. So experience does color our perception. We have associated certain patterns with good, bad, and whatever association you might want, but we know what patterns mean. And yeah, we can, if we're not very familiar, we can see a pattern and misconstrue what it means. Or we can try to think for other people. We can try to put ourselves and try to be empathetic, put ourselves in other people's shoes, and then try to see things how they might see it. And then you have the people that go out there and they start to argue and defend and attack on behalf of other people. other people are the ones that you're offended on behalf of. And really what these people are, I'm just going to be blunt, busybodies. They're busybodies. They have nothing else to do. They need order and purpose, so they find modern religion. They find moral panic, outrage culture, or censorship. Just silence the people that are bad, the viewpoints that are bad, even if you're for free speech. But off on a tangent here. The more information we have, the wider our filters become. So the more we prime ourselves with new information, we get used to different facts and figures and bits of the world that we weren't familiar with. Once we're familiar with them, they're just like an old friend. You might, love or hate them, but you know them. It's a known quantity. See, we fear the unknown. We have this great fear of the unknown, and it's so clear. People don't want, and I actually agree with this. I like stability. I like knowing what I'm getting into. Before I play a chess game, I want to know that where the pieces are and how many pieces there are and so forth. And if that shows how good I am at chess, I don't even know how many pieces there are if you polled me. Is it 48? I don't know. I'm not going to, that's for the whole board, and I'm not going to go there. I think it's 32. So our window on what's happening opens further when we get more information. So that's why I say more information is better. This is the free speech portion of the Jeff Tidwell tweet video. More speech is better. And more speech kills hate speech, because you want to let as many people talk and as many voices be heard, as many perspectives, and as many sides be heard as possible. You don't want to be just removing voices because you don't see them. You see them as unsavory. Because what happens? They get validated as victims. You victimize them by removing their voice. And I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong. I'm neutral on this. But whatever the hypothetical situation is, you're removing their voice, and then they have something to fight against. You. If you're a disciple or a prophet of the modern religion that is censorship, you are generating hatred for yourself. They have a reason to dislike you. And that, we don't want that. We don't want more people that are already kind of, maybe a little bit unreasonable, a little bit on edge as it is, having a reason, a validation to feel like they're victims, like they have a reason to fight back. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, after all. So I find it refreshing when I see a person discovering something good in a thing they never appreciated before. You can't judge a book by its cover. The first impression is so important, but it's not the only impression. There is this everybody is their own world in a body. Everybody is their own world. And everybody has their own mind countries they like to visit as well. I talk about that in one of my other videos about discovering, Trekking Undiscovered Mind Country. That's another video. And of course, I have another video I want to pitch as well. I haven't seen too many views on this one, but it's called Rationalizing Forgiveness. Find that on BitChute or YouTube. Rationalizing forgiveness is something that I think we could all do more of. Because we've gotten into this world where people are thinking in absolutes, and they see something and they've got their opinion, and then they don't want to. They have cognitive dissonance if you bring something else in and try to tell them, well, maybe your opinion, hell, my opinion changes all the time. Maybe your opinion is questionable. So I say question everything. But when somebody discovers something good in a thing they never appreciated before, that's a breakthrough. That's wonderful. That means that they reassessed something, they took a second look, they got a second impression, and they like it. So a friend said to me the other day, they said, paraphrased, I'm enjoying Latin music more of late. I haven't a clue what they're singing about, but I love the way it makes me feel. Like I said, it transcends language. This sort of emotional feeling, the beauty of life, of art, of expression, doesn't have to be, something that you're familiar with. It can just be, maybe you're familiar in general. It's not like you're hearing an alien orchestra for the first time. But it's just this emotion that flows through it. It just, that's connectivity. That reconnects us. Music reconnects us because it operates in this on this wordless plane, and it can be very persuasive too. It can be very persuasive. It can add so much. I remember, I forget the guy's name, Michael Giannini or whatever, Michael Giannino. I got it so wrong, but tell me in the comment section below, who was the composer for Lost and a number of other J.J. Abrams joints? He was really, really good. These composers that just pull your heartstrings, and they know just what everybody can get on the same page with these emotions, these feelings, and they move you. Yeah. I haven't a clue what they're singing about, but I love the way it makes me feel. That makes me feel good. That statement makes me feel good.